The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
If you're building, buying, selling a home, the real estate crew's got news for you at the Real Estate House Party.
With attorney Rick Carter,
Real Estate House Party.
paralegal Kathy Holtshouser,
Real Estate House Party. Come in, have fun.
and comedian Tony V. Now, here's real estate attorney Rick Carter.
Welcome and thanks for joining us on the Real Estate House Party.
Thanks for having us. Like I have a choice, right?
You have a choice, like your choice. Johnny, you're going to say, well, these two don't seem like they've talked in a while, but Kathy's been on a little bit of a vacation.
Here
But we
we
got to
go.
first introduce Johnny the Iceman Marroni. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for
We're going to
having
have
me.
Christine Hurley today, and I got to give a shout out to Coco Hurley. Not feeling well in the Hurley
poor
house.
Coco.
Sometimes we we
You're going to start our show on a sad note. We miss our dogs, okay,
we miss
guys?
our dogs. We miss Christine. We hope them well, and we hope them they'll probably be on the next shows coming. I'm going to start with a trivia question, John Marroni.
What is it?
Second most photographed house in America.
The second most photos.
It's on the market and just sold.
Oh, so it's not the White House?
No, that's number one.
Is it around
That's-
here?
That's a cliffhanger. We'll talk about at the end of the show. Nope.
Will we ever guess it?
You could. You
Elvis's
could.
house?
That's up. That's in the top 10, but this
Okay.
is number 2. Now, you're missing the point of a cliffhanger. We're going to wait till the end of the show.
That's
right.
really mean. What is it?
No, I'm not telling until the end of the
All
show.
right.
Number 2.
Is it in this country?
It is in this country.
Okay.
It's a
House on the market.
house on the market. It's an icon of a house. If you watched 70s TV, sitcom TV.
Oh,
Brady
the Brady
Bunch?
Bunch.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So much for that cliffhanger.
Yeah. I think we all knew that.
What happened? I had to give you the tips, though.
Cliffhanger. That turned to be a mudslide.
Speaking of mudslides, John Marroni, it's not as much of a seller's market as it was a little while ago. What's going on?
Well, I think what's happening is, depending on the areas, as you're starting to get in the Boston area, it's still hot. But as you start getting beyond 128, it's starting to level off. And the buyers, I think when they go through the home inspection, they realize the work that they may have to do within the next 12
Yeah.
months. They're going to say, no, we're backing out.
Well, and also, I'm seeing this in some of the markets up in New Hampshire, is that everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, right? So
Yeah.
there's some more inventory out
Yep.
there. And
Sellers are jumping on the bandwagon,
The
and
price-
buyers are jumping off because the rates are up a tad.
They are.
Right.
And the sellers are thinking they're getting top of the market, but they may have missed it in
Yeah.
some parts of New Hampshire.
And this is where I think sellers really need to really have a good realtor to
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
explain it to them. You know,
A realtor and a good attorney, closing attorney.
Absolutely.
Seller's attorney. When
Yeah.
that sounds a little...
Self-serving?
Yeah, it's a little self-serving, yes. But, I mean, we're seeing it more and more now where the buyers are coming in. The prices probably aren't going down that much,
But they're not going to get 50,000 over asking.
right.
No.
Maybe
Right.
3 or 4 or 5 months ago. In some markets like Reading, they probably still are. Some hot markets, but not like when you say you get away from the 128 area.
I got to quote Mark Triglione.
go ahead.
Hi, Mark.
Premier Realty. He says, we had a seller the other day that was so annoyed they only got what they were asking for.
Wow.
So they're not seeing the multiple offers.
Right.
They're not seeing, and what we're seeing on my end doing the purchase and sales is the buyers are start negotiating. You know how 6 months ago we were talking about
They had no
no contingencies.
right.
They were leaving out not only the home inspection, the mortgage.
It wasn't a negotiation with the buyer.
Right,
It was
right.
just what the seller wanted.
Right.
If they wanted the house,
Right.
they had to
There's
agree
25
to everything.
offers,
right.
and they're only going to look at the ones with no contingencies. Now I'm seeing back in that it's subject to an appraisal.
Yep.
Acceptable appraisal. It's acceptable and subject to a house being sold, and they're accepting these. So
Right.
are you seeing these things as you're coming along?
Yeah, it's starting to. I remember 10 years ago, it was the opposite. People were,
Right.
realtors were begging to have buyers.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and no one
Right.
really wanted to be that list agent.
Right,
you know,
right.
but,
Oh,
so-
it's cyclical.
Oh, big time.
5 or 6 years
Yeah.
ago, I had a broker say, "Ugh." I go, "What's the matter?" She goes, "Oh, I just got a listing."
Listings are the best,
Those
right?
things are the best now, but she was so annoyed she was going to have to start advertising it, marketing, and it wasn't going to get sold. Yeah.
Because I remember the times when you really had being a mortgage person, work with the realtor, and you'd put signs up in front of the house, you could buy this house for, $999 a month, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll pay all your closing costs,
Yep.
so on and so forth. And just whatever it took to market that house.
You don't do that anymore at all, right?
What?
Like these gadgetry marketing at all. We talked about with one of our brokers, they actually had, you go by and the sign would actually, if you text that phone number, you get pre-qualified, and Tony V would even talk about it. You almost like have bought the house just by texting this sign, your phone number.
Well, now you're in the broker's database.
Right, you're in the data, but you
That's
don't.
all. No, I mean, because that's garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
I can get approved. I can approve anyone for $3 million if I put the wrong information in.
Right.
We gotta say where Tony V is.
Where is he?
He's at a Matt Light shootout.
And wait a minute. He picked Matt Light shootout over our podcast.
I said, Tony, this doesn't seem like this is
I didn't
very
know.
important. He says, no, that podcast is the most important thing to me.
I didn't know we
other
had
than
options.
this week and next. Yes, you're right. And Kathy's just back from vacation now.
It wasn't really a vacation. I just went to visit my friend in Pennsylvania.
So
for her
evidently in
birthday.
our employee handbook,
Yeah.
some employee handbooks say you can take a half a day off for your birthday. She gets to take 5 days off
3.
for her friend's birthday.
Three.
You good with that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Don't worry, John. I'm going to have to make it up.
She actually has to go back to work after this. So
Yeah.
another story. So I'm seeing home inspection issues now cropping up, whereas before in the seller's market, they would say, "All right, Mr. Buyer, we'll get someone else to buy this. We don't want to hear about the home inspection."
That's what we
issue."
call as is.
Yeah, that's what as is all about.
So like even up to like 2 months ago, we were talking about how the buyers really, if they wanted the house, they just had to do basically what the sellers wanted.
Exactly. Yep.
If they had a house to sell, they couldn't enter into that agreement. The seller would never agree to it. Now, like 60 days later, we're starting to talk about this stuff changing,
Right.
and that's how rapidly
within a couple of months,
the
so-
real
right,
estate
you're right.
environment changes.
So now the buyer's saying, "Well, I want these 5 or 6 items taken care of at closing." And the sellers are hearing about their neighbors who have sold a year ago,
Right.
saying, "Well, they didn't have to do any of this."
Well, they sold the house for $30,000 more than
Right.
asking price.
Right.
So now we're starting to see a little
Some
bit
sellers
of
are
a
competitive too. They get mad. The neighbor got 25 offers.
Well, right.
How come I'm only getting 7?
or it took 7 days to get one offer.
Right,
Whereas some houses sell in a day, and it just depends on your buyer pool out there. And so the rates are up a little bit.
Does
or
that hurt? That hurts the buyer pool.
Not really.
Of course it doesn't.
No, I had a thought when you guys were talking about the buyers. So
Sometimes I feel like he's not quite with us. He's letting us talk, and when we need him, we'll jump in with him.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
You're
just
really usually come in around the 12th or 13th minute of our show. You're jumping in around 8 or 9 today.
That's the show. No, so when I started 23 years ago, I think the buyers.
Where do you work? Anyway, what's your
mortgage place called
Okay.
NewFed Mortgage.
NewFed Mortgage. We
Yeah.
love NewFed Mortgage.
Yeah, it's awesome. Absolutely.
You guys have a great team. I
do.
always like to shout that out because you have a great processors, and a great closing department.
Absolutely.
So-
We can close in 3 weeks without really
Yeah.
killing ourselves.
And they're
Good
reachable.
process.
You guys are all
You do all the work on your loans yourself?
No.
No, Stacy does all his work.
I'm kidding. I know.
I mean,
Johnny said to me the other day, he goes, "I just want to delegate everything. I just want to." We shouldn't talk about this. I want to delegate even how I'm going to get my money.
So do I.
No, I want someone to count my money.
Yeah.
for me. No, I mean, come on. Does Mick Jagger tune his guitar before? No.
No,
He
you're right.
might.
You're
He
right.
might.
You're right, Nick. You're right. You're
No,
right.
but
So
you guys-
here's my thought before I'm about to lose it. So I got to
Okay, yeah.
grab it. I think the buyers too. It's like a generational thing because 23 years ago, I was working with buyers that were 10 years older than me. So they were around 40 years old.
Yeah.
They were like the baby boomers. They wanted it. They wanted it now. They didn't care. They didn't really crunch numbers. They were all about emotions. Now these buyers, they actually run the numbers and to the penny. And then if they're off a little or like, oh no, it's just.
Really? They grind you that much on?
No, they grind themselves. Like they really budget. And,
Okay.
and that's when they have a tipping point where they say, I'm not going to buy. Where when I was starting, we not only were beyond the tipping point, like someone would say, you know what, I'm going to work overtime. I'm going to make this work.
Right.
The buyers
they fell in
today,
love with the house.
Yeah, and the buyers today, I think they're more analytical about it, less emotional.
Right.
Now, do the fees change much from lender to lender? Or are they pretty much
No,
the same?
they're pretty much the same. I mean,
Right.
the lender fees are minimal. It's all the other stuff that
We
goes
still
with
have
it.
shoppers. We still have rate shoppers, believe it or
For-
not.
on what?
On a mortgage, a 30-year like fixed mortgage. Like
Yeah, they're pretty much the same.
I know.
We had a title order the other day and 3 different mortgage companies sent it to us.
Yeah.
I guess the buyer was just
Shopping it out. And
Oh.
that's a thing of the past, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I mean, plus or minus an eighth, everybody's
Yeah.
pretty much
Right.
in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And it's not like the old days, Kathy Holtshouser. Most of these people know to the penny. What?
Are you calling me old? No. The old days. I know, but like in the
No,
old
you didn't hear the question though. At closing, they know pretty much down to the penny what they owe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the old days,
they had a good faith estimate.
that was off by $3,000 or $4,000 at some point.
Yep.
Easily.
Easy. And then so that's all they had to go on until an hour before the closing when they get the final HUD the HUD settlement statement, and they're like, how do I need to bring $10,000 to the closing? Here's my good faith, and it says $4,000. Well, the way it works now is with the closing disclosure. You guys all know this, right? You know this, Rick?
No, I'm learning and being entertained at the
So
same
that would
time.
be the CD.
The CD, and that has
Like
to
the
go
record?
out.
Yeah.
That has to go out to the customer 3 days before the closing,
Mm-hmm.
and they've seen it before the required 3 days before the closing.
I could
Is it
tell.
3 days?
I could tell
Yeah.
when Kathy was really annoyed. She wouldn't go over any of the figures with the buyer, and that would be a big surprise to the buyer when they came in. And Rick Carter had to explain it all in New Hampshire why they had to pay $7.50 per thousand state tax stamps, and all of a sudden they owe $7,000 more at closing there. So this is why you stay on the good side of paralegal.
Oh, when you
extraordinaires.
show up at
Absolutely.
open a file that has no stuff in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi,
yeah.
I'm here to close your loan.
You can
and-
ask Kathy about the Joe FF closing, but we'll talk about that at a later time. That's not really time for our viewers here. But yes, everything is exact, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and the only thing that will change from a closing disclosure that goes out earlier in the week is like an oil adjustment or a tax adjustment. If the seller pays the taxes through the end of September and you're buying on September 15th, you have to give them a credit for the 15 days that they've already paid for it. So those are the fees can't change.
Yep.
They cannot change. And if they do change, typically the lender gets hit with the
Unless there was a change of circumstance.
so, but then
Then
you
you'd
wouldn't
have to
close on
redisclose,
time, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes if there is a missing fee, and it does happen every once in a while, a missing fee, the lender typically will take that, like pay that tolerance. What is it, 10%?
Something like it depends on the category. There's some
Yeah.
fees that can't move at all.
Depends on
Right.
the bucket.
Yeah.
So do buyers mostly know about maintenance fees, things like that, or is that something they don't really?
Maintenance fees? What's that? I don't even know that.
Well, like
He's kidding.
we're doing a planned unit development in Hooksett, New Hampshire, and there is a maintenance, a homeowners association fee, and of course that's not going to be disclosed on a lender CD, but it will appear on the final CD. You know what I mean? So it's fees outside of the loan,
the norm.
yeah,
Right.
the loan, like lender fees.
So what we're seeing sometimes is that buyer might, and you correct us if we're wrong, but a buyer might get boxed out if all of a sudden his payments are an extra $100 a month, right?
Yeah, because there's a certain point. That's exactly it. Where there's a point where the loan works or it doesn't work, and so it could be something like $100. Or I had a situation, flood insurance. The current owner was paying $1,500 for the year. Turns out that owner was grandfathered in to that rate, and the new buyer, his rate, it was like $3,200.
Right.
It made a huge difference.
Huge.
Right.
Do the math. Divided by 12
Yeah.
it's a lot of money.
It wasn't. We had to readjust the rate and everything to get the loan to still work.
In rare situations, a seller might not even have flood insurance. They might have changed the flood maps.
Well,
That's
if
right.
they've
That's
owned the
right.
house for 30 years,
Right.
they don't
Right.
have flood
Right.
insurance.
Right.
So, and then we've had that exact situation happen. And we
Right.
said, well, why didn't the broker
There was no
tell the
mortgage.
buyers?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, if there's no mortgage, no one's requiring you to have any insurance, actually.
Ever
Right.
hear of an elevation certificate? That's a way to get around
Yeah,
the
you
flood
could get
insurance,
an
but it's a little,
engineer.
little convoluted. But
Yeah, I think you can get it for
there is
under
a way around it.
$1,000. I think it's like
How much is it?
Like, I hear quotes from like $700 to $1,000. Get an engineer, do an engineering cert to say it's at a certain level, and then.
So if it could be in a flood zone, but if the building's high enough,
That's right.
they might not need flood
Yeah,
insurance.
or you have someone that has a pond in their property. On the surface, you say, "Oh, they're in a flood zone," but the house may be
Right,
30 feet above
Right.
elevation
Right,
at the pond,
right.
and then
Right.
And in that case, I would actually, someone says, "Oh, you need a elevation certificate for $1,000." I'm like, $1,000,
I'd run to it. Yeah.
but you need. I would get it
That's
because
right.
otherwise, you're paying $2,000 or $3,000 a year for
absolutely.
flood insurance.
some in reverse, some of them are paying $6,000.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
It's
And the thing about flood insurance, I know because we had it in Maine, is it goes up every year. So it could start at like $1,700, which doesn't seem so bad. But by the time we're done, it was up to like $3,300
Wow.
a year
wow.
Wow.
for our cottage. That
Right.
if you did the math on how many years we paid that,
Right,
it's
right.
probably the value of our cottage.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, and some people won't do flood insurance. They'll self-insure. They'll figure, say someone paying $5,000 a year. 10 years goes by, there's $50,000. They figure they're in no flood yet. So,
right.
Yeah.
if there is a flood, they probably figure, it's just a basement. What do we care?
Now condo fees could throw someone off too.
Big
Oh,
time.
yeah.
You better find out how much that condo association is charging you. Some condos might be $150. Some are $350, $450.
I've seen them up as like $600 or
I know.
$700
I know.
Yeah, the
recently.
St. George and Revere, the pink one, they're like $650.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely. And there is some that like $900, and they don't even give you anything. I mean, $900. I mean, I want the globe in my car.
Fresh flowers every
I'm
delivered
walking
to
on
your door.
I'm walking on rose petals when I leave.
Yeah. No, I've seen some really high ones, like $700
Yeah.
a month.
Some
Think
people
about
have
it.
to strategize on that, I would imagine.
Yeah.
That's why they got to be calling you early enough in the process. Right?
Now, yeah, all that stuff. Because I know people when they're on the edge of qualifying or not, it could be something simple, like a very high condo fee.
Right.
You say, listen,
right.
you don't qualify for that.
Right.
Right.
Even though
right.
the price may be less than something else they were looking at, you got to take a look at the whole thing.
Right.
Which would be smart anyway to make sure you can
So
afford
here's some
it,
issues
right?
we've had.
Yeah. But let me on that
Absolutely.
line. Here's the thing, though. Sometimes people say someone might have a higher condo fee, and it might include heat and electricity
So
and
you
all
can
that.
take that out of the
you
budget.
Can't.
Oh.
Yeah, but for us, unfortunately, we still have to debt them for it,
Right.
even though it's a better deal. So then it's just
Oh.
so that becomes an unfortunate situation. Even though it's better for the borrower,
Yep.
they still don't qualify.
That's a good point. Yep.
because
And
of
then
that.
if the rates go up a little bit and they don't lock in, that could screw up the deal, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
What do you have for rate locks? 30, 60, 90 days or?
Yeah, we can go as far out as a year if you really want.
What do you typically do, a 45 day?
I'd say I'm doing 30 days.
Yeah, you're living
Yeah.
on the edge.
So if there's a title
Then
problem,
we have to close.
so if there's a title problem, that seller can't convey on that date.
Yeah.
They might lose their interest rate then, right?
Well, yeah. Then there's the rate lock. If the market totally tanks, then you get like a rate lock extension fee. Typically, that's for 30 days. It's probably like a half a point.
Okay. Yep.
So then you got it for so $300,000. That's $1,500. So it's something like that. Depending on
How often do you see that?
it seems to be more and more. With the,
Can you make the seller? Can they make the seller pay it if they have
Only if it's
a
in the-
title?
Yeah, you have
if
to put
it's
it
in the
PNS.
purchase sale,
Okay.
yeah. So I've been doing that lately.
Yeah.
Whereas, because the seller has the option, well, the buyer has the option. It's a good question. The buyer has the option of getting out of the deal if their rate is lost because the sellers can't close on time. So now most of us are putting in, well, let's give the seller the option to buy that rate down to the
Okay.
original. So because that seller might not want to put that back on the market if he only has
If
to
it's
pay
only, yeah,
$1,000.
$1,500, right?
Right.
He's not going to want to put
Well,
it
and that's the
back.
thing, because I see a lot of people. I see people on the other side. People talking about, the rate lock is going to expire, like it's the end of the world. And I say, what are you talking about? Just pay an extension fee. You know, it's,
Right.
Have you ever seen anything The End of the World with John Marroni?
No.
No.
Well, I figured. Guess what I learned? That the world ends once.
Yeah. And so far the world hasn't ended, right? So that's you're going with it.
Me and John Marroni went to the Steve Sweeney movie the other day.
Oh, Sweeney killing Sweeney.
I know we're jumping about around here a little bit there, but Sweeney
was
killing
awesome.
Sweeney, huh? That was pretty good. Tony V did a nice job. I wish he
did.
was here. We could comment on it, but
Absolutely. Yeah, they.
Mr. Realtor,
Lot of
Tony V. It was pretty funny. He looked like a, disgruntled, real estate attorney.
Maybe he's hanging around with us too long.
I know.
He doesn't like the real estate market.
Exactly.
The best part was like he's on the phone. He's looking at the clients. He goes, excuse me, I'm with clients that look like they just stepped out of an IKEA catalog. He's looking right at them, talking about them.
I think he made up most of those lines. I don't want to throw Steve Sweeney off, but I think when Tony V's involved, there's a little bit of improv. So let's talk about a couple things we've had lately that might throw some financing and closings off.
Yeah.
House got hit by lightning. Act
Yeah,
of God. I
that
don't think we've had that one before.
No, that turned into a real problem.
For us. Right, exactly. So
because they had rate lock issue, right?
they had rate lock issues, and they just wanted to escrow everything. All right, there's like $30,000 worth of damage. Let's just throw all that money in escrow. What would a lender say? What would normally a lender say about something like that? Escrowing.
I know what a lender is
I
going
know.
to say. John doesn't have to answer that. The lender is lending money on a piece of property that they appraised, right? So if there's $30,000 or $40,000 of damage, the lender is not going to be happy with that.
John didn't want to commit to that either.
No, they basically just want to make sure it's habitable. So it sounds like something like that's not habitable.
Yeah, but no, it was
No, it
habitable,
was
but there
habitable.
were holes in the roof.
That has to get fixed.
Right, before they close.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not even up for discussion.
But
How about the hot tub?
But the parties involved, the hot
hot
tub
tub-
probably didn't matter that
Right,
much.
right,
but
right.
the parties involved just wanted to shove it under the carpet and just close it. And Carter Law Office couldn't do that because
No.
we represent the lender.
yeah.
And so we said we can't do the whatever. But you know what would have happened if things didn't get fixed right.
Right.
They would have been screaming at us because everybody was mad at us. But they would have called us up screaming at us, and we would have had a lawsuit on our hands. So
Back to both your points. That's why you need the brokers did keep a lot of that together because it got a little contentious. Because
What are you guys seeing up in your area, like with the gas, the
we
Columbia
haven't.
gas?
We thankfully, knock on wood, we haven't come across one of those houses. But it could very well have been one of our
that was
houses
a
on the
horrible
market.
situation. That was. Oof.
But some of them aren't going to be fixed for 2 years. Have you guys
know.
hear that story?
Yeah, imagine trying to sell that house.
Well, it's something like that. I would just immediately get propane.
I wouldn't even do propane. I would just do oil. I would have the whole house converted.
Well, you wouldn't have propane. It's simple. You just get the tank.
I guess you're right, yeah.
90 gallons. You can do 250. You just get Eastern propane or whatever.
Gas. The word
Yeah.
gas. We might want to get rid of the word gas.
The selling feature of the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amazon.com usually, I was telling you, has national coverage on different articles. One of it was the Andover areas with the...
Really?
Yep. So, yeah, it's too bad. What else have we seen lately? We saw a seller marketing a piece of property that they didn't completely own. That's a problem.
It is?
Yep.
It's called a realtor, right?
Well, they didn't. What do you mean they didn't completely own it?
They just.
Who'd they own it with?
Actually, the neighbor owned it. So it was one of those where there's three parcels together, 7,500 square feet. And it looked like the next door's property of 2,500 square feet was part of the property.
The whole backyard, right, or the
whole sliver.
the play area that attracted them for their little children, and when they found
that was
out they
shown
weren't-
all over the MLS photographs. Said, here's the backyard, and all right.
And they knew they didn't.
I didn't know we could showcase stuff we don't own.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's no different than showing a picture of the local lake that you could walk to and portray it like it's part of the property. Oh, yeah.
Gloucester does that all the time. I always see signs when I'm going home. Ocean view.
In the seller's defense, they owned the swing set. They owned the play area.
They owned the swing set.
Yeah, but they didn't
Just
own the
land on it.
not a problem.
Don't be such a technocrat. Yeah, I love Gloucester. Ocean view. I go,
Yeah, from a
ocean view.
drone.
Yeah. What else are we seeing?
I'll tell you one.
Go ahead.
We've seen is husband and wife are buying the house, but just the husband is on the mortgage, or just on the note.
Yeah.
You know, so he was the only one that was qualified.
Yeah.
But then the wife is on title, so she'll be signing the deed.
Yep.
She gets the house, and she also has to sign the mortgage. But my wife is too busy to show up at the closing, and this is like the day before the closing.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot lately.
Really, you're too busy to buy an $800,000 house?
Yeah.
No, she's busy, and I'm like, well, like, where is she busy? Like, you know, it's only going to take a minute or whatever. He goes, no, I need a power of attorney. But what you guys don't understand, or what people don't understand, is there's a lot that goes into a power of attorney. Like, you understand, right?
I do, yep.
We have to draft it. We have to send it into the underwriting department of the lender. They maybe will have some changes or not, or they say it's fine. And then we need to get it to the person that is too busy to show up at the closing, and they need to find a notary public. They need to sign it.
And they're
then
too busy to do that.
And then they need to get the original back to us. So finding out at 2 o'clock, the day before a 9 o'clock closing, is a little bit tough on us.
Yeah, and the investor, as you say, has to approve that. And sometimes the investor is not a local investor.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to approve the language in it.
Yeah.
So when the buyer is buying a house, they might want to look at their closing date, and they might want to be available that day or make arrangements.
It's funny because you started off saying, you know, a lot of the buyers and sellers these days are very analytical. They critique everything. I'm not seeing that as much. They seem to have hands off. They just seem to send over agreements or something like that. And
Maybe on that end, but the finance, I'm seeing that. When they start seeing the numbers.
Yeah, we see purchase and sales. They say, you know, and I've never heard from the buyer.
So then Rick calls them and says, "Hi, I'm Rick Carter," and they're like, "Who?"
Yeah,
well, I'm the guy like saving your butt.
Right.
I'm the guy protecting you.
Exactly.
And so then I hear him on the phone, and he's going through every paragraph. Like, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And their heads are spinning. Like, none of this makes any sense to them.
Right.
Like,
but I feel like there's a lot of representations in these purchase and sales.
You got to apply for a mortgage by a certain day.
Right.
You need to have your financing by, and then when the financing
no
date,
one understands that.
When the financing date is ready to expire, Rick asked the question, do you have your financing in place? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you don't.
And they still don't understand that has to be a full commitment letter. It can't be subject to us still getting a few things because.
Yeah, unless they're okay with those things.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
If they're manageable, absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
No, because there could be like one thing on there that could just like change the whole thing.
Oh, we've talked about one of your, or I don't know if it was yours, the alimony or the child support payments, inconsistent child support payments that you guys couldn't underwrite because they weren't like a consistently $1,000 a month.
Right, you got to document that they're consistently getting
$1,000 a month, and maybe she got $2,000 one month and $1,000 another month.
Or nothing for a couple months. Oh, I give her cash, and then it's just, no, they won't accept that.
Right.
Are you seeing houses all appraise out okay now, or is this something that's gonna show up in 4 or 5 months? Because we're relying on the appraisals from 6 months ago when everything was going well. Mm-hmm. So right now it should be okay, but people buying maybe in the spring, are they going to be affected by this? You think, or
you know what I'm seeing is multifamilies.
Yeah.
The values are appraising out, but what's not catching up is the rental comps. So, especially like on FHA, what's important is this on a 3 and a 4 family, the property has to carry itself. They have this self-sustained test where they take the actual market rents, not the actual rent, multiply it by 75%. So let's say 3 units of market rent is $2,000 each. There's $6,000. 75% of that is $4,500. So the total mortgage payment cannot exceed $4,500.
Okay.
If it does, that property fails that test, and that's an FHA, and FHA will not finance that property.
What if the seller had them all occupied for more than
doesn't
6?
matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. It goes by market rent.
Okay.
And so what happens is, because we saw it in Lynn, and it took about 6 months to catch up, because these appraisers were just, they weren't really trying that hard in the market. I had one where it came in low, and the property wasn't working, and so I came up with some rental comps. I had the realtor help me with rental comps. We went back to the appraiser, and he adjusted it. He was able to do that. He's like, oh, all right, because the appraiser.
Well, you basically did his work for him, right?
Yeah. They just because they're not cognizant to think that the rental comps part of the appraisals could make or break a deal.
Right.
Now, on the commercial end, it's I know you don't do commercial, but they got to be careful of that because I think they're looking for 1.25.
Yeah, commercial, it's huge.
Right.
It's all about the property's rental analysis.
So you got to be getting more.
That's right.
Than what sustains that mortgage,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the banks, they look at it. They have to take it over. They want to be able to at least
make sure they could rent it, right?
Commercial's a different animal. People can walk away from
the last minute.
Right.
There's no emotions.
Right.
Even the day before, they could just say, you know what, I decided I'm not going to buy this thing.
What are you seeing? I know we have to wrap up soon, but if you had a short sale, I know I ask people this all the time. If you had a short sale within the last 5 years, can you get a loan?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what John always says.
I know.
Yeah.
So how about in the last 2 years?
You could get an FHA loan.
You can.
It depends on how it shook out. It's like if you were making your payments on time, and then you just.
Most of them.
I would say 3 years.
Typically on a short sale, they're not making their mortgage payment.
No, they are though. They are.
And they don't have the value. They don't have the value.
Yeah, they just want to move. They want to move, but they can't move.
I think that's atypical of a short sale, though.
Right.
Typically, they get disgruntled.
Lenders would say, if they're making their mortgage payments, then we're not doing a short sale.
Right.
But
no, because then.
No, I know, and it changed.
But the real reason you do a short sale is because you don't have the value in the house. Not that you can't afford it, but you can't afford to sell it because you need to bring X amount to the closing because the house doesn't have the value.
Right.
So in a perfect short sale situation.
And I'm going to give a caveat. We're not advocating not making your mortgage payments.
Oh, no.
I'm just saying.
But don't we teach everyone bad things to do? How to write a bad check.
Yeah.
Exactly. We could talk about.
Oh, yeah.
We could talk about one of our borrowers came in. We typically want a bank check. And they came in with a personal check, which is fine, but we deposited it, and it bounced.
So here's a tip.
Don't write bad checks.
It's a federal crime. We have that one form that says, do not commit mortgage fraud.
Yeah.
I love that one.
He said, I have to come drop off another check.
Oh, he was annoyed because I had him come to my office.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Either that or go to jail.
So
he probably said, it's not a bad check. Everything's spelt correctly.
A for effort.
Carter with the C, right?
But this is the whole thing. Is everything is so automated now, and but our bank just sends us a letter like 2 weeks later. You know what I mean? You bounced a check.
Right.
Don't you have a phone number for us or you know what I mean? Like everything else is you could see it all online. We log in several times a day. Couldn't you put a huge flag? You just had a check. You know what I mean? But
you would think
we don't find.
I'm seeing people can't even write checks anymore.
Oh, my kids don't even know how to write a check.
They don't know how to do cursive.
Yeah.
Is that unbelievable?
Yeah.
Not that they don't know how to do cursive. They don't know how to fill it out. They don't know how to do
I had
1,100.
I had a guy the other day. He could not do cursive. He goes, I don't know how to write this check. I go, well,
why does he have to do it in
cursive?
cursive?
You know how to tell time? Are you one of those two that only goes, yeah, he just couldn't write.
And they can't address a letter. They don't even know how to address a letter.
Just a letter. No, I know. Ooh, so we digress. John Marroni, the Iceman. Go ahead.
Here we go.
It's not the crab story, is it?
No. Although
Crab's coming out of the pocket. No. We'll save that for next time.
So here's my public service announcement. You can still refinance. People are still refinancing. I just had someone, the HOP loans, you haven't heard that for a while.
Right.
There are still people that have rates in the high fives that can lower their rate. I just had someone right now, 15-year fixed. Believe it or not, he's been in his mortgage for 15 years.
Yeah.
His rate's 5.875.
So 15-year fix. All right, go ahead.
So I'm going to give him a 15-year fix at 4.875, no closing cost. And I told him, I go, you continue to make the same payments that you are now. Your loan will get paid off in 13 and a half years. You'll save $30,000 over the life of your loan. With the payment you're already making.
So he was in a 30-year, but he had been paying it for 15 years.
Right,
Okay.
right, and then and
that makes sense.
And the thing was, his income wasn't really what it used to be, but the HOP loan is a lot forgiven when it comes to debt ratio, and he's still qualified. So,
all right, not to be a naysayer, but I like the idea. How many people actually do that? I wonder. Make those.
Have the discipline?
Yes.
3%.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's why. But worst case, I put him in a 15-year fix, and he'll be saving $150 a month. So at the very least,
you make one extra payment a year?
It takes up 7.5.
That's on a 30-year fix.
But I don't know how many people actually, because it doesn't sound like that much to do.
It isn't, especially if you did it like. If your mortgage payment was $1,500, you send in an extra $125.
Should we get Stu Holtshouser on this?
Oh, Stewie does that all the time.
I have to get Stu Holtshouser to start some educational.
I got one more.
Go ahead. We don't mean to rush you.
So, talk in terms of refinance and people that are in FHA mortgages. I have some people, they're at 3.875.
Okay.
But when they got the FHA mortgage, they have the mortgage insurance, which
brings it up to.
But the thing is, when they put down less than 10%, that mortgage insurance, it's for the life of the loan.
Right.
So when you factor in the mortgage insurance, that's another 1.5 to the rate. So 3.875 is equivalent to really 5.125.
Right.
And I bring that up because there are some people that wanted to take cash out of the house.
Worse.
And I said, let's just do it, cash out refinance. Your rate's going to be like 4.75. And they're like, no, but that's much higher than my 3.875. I said, no. And I explained them.
Yeah.
You're really at 5.125. And then when they see that, then they say, all right, it's worth it.
Right.
So the knee-jerk reaction is, I'm not going to touch this 3.875, but they're also.
So what you're saying, if you can get down to the 4.875 because you can avoid the mortgage insurance, and
because people's
mathematically it makes sense.
People's homes appreciated so much since the last few years since they got into these things.
Right. So just for clarification, when you get private mortgage insurance, you can get rid of that when you have 20% equity in the house, right?
When you pay it down.
When you pay it down to 20% equity, and then you just call the lender and they send out an appraiser for a fee.
Yeah, for 20%. But if it's 22% under the Bill Clinton Principal Reduction Act, it goes away automatically.
Oh.
Yep, automatic. It's not even
I didn't know that.
20% the lender doesn't have to, but they will.
Unless asked.
Yeah.
22% automatic.
Automatic.
Oh, I guess I didn't know that.
Yep.
But on an FHA, it never goes away.
If they put less than 10% down.
Okay.
If they do 10% down, it's about like 11 years.
Okay. It'll go away automatically in 11 years?
Yeah, that's pretty much how the schedule is. So there's that. And why do people refinance today? Well, people might want to take cash out. Some people that would, about 2 years ago, would say, all right, you know what, I have a nice rate. Instead of doing a cash out refi, I'm going to do a HELOC.
Right.
When the prime was at like 3.5, now the prime's at 5%.
Right.
People are rethinking that home equity line of credit because a lot of these programs are prime, depending on their credit score, they might be like prime +1, so now they rate 6% for that cash. So you kind of just, I just do a comparison for both to see what makes sense. Plus that prime it's not fixed.
Right.
So some people don't care. Some people, the fact that it's not fixed, wigs them out.
Well, we're starting to see another swing. Before we'd just see rate and term refinances, right? They're basically refinancing their mortgage. They're not getting any cash out, whatnot. And now a lot of our refinances are a lot of cash out, like $70,000.
Paying off those student loans for the kids.
Paying off the credit cards.
Credit cards. Yeah.
And maybe taking the money and going to buy a vacation home or whatever they're doing, but they're taking out a lot of money.
Yeah, or divorce situation. If someone wants to get off them. See, a lot of times, I see this. The judge will say, I'll wrap this up.
No, it's okay. It's our hour.
Yeah. We can cut it, slice it, and dice it any way we want.
Ed Sullivan, our fabulous producer, says.
Oh, he's got to go.
This seems like a lot more content when Tony V isn't available.
Right. So we know who's the one fooling around all the time.
That's right.
So when someone's going through a divorce, the judge will say, all right, this spouse is responsible for the mortgage, and this one's responsible for these credit cards or whatever. And so the other person thinks, oh, I don't care if the person's late on those. The judge says,
No.
The creditors say, no, you're
You
both.
gotta separate,
You're both.
right.
You're both.
They don't care what the judge says.
At all.
Right.
At all.
Right.
Right.
You know, it's just,
So what you're saying is best to refinance, get names off
Yes,
that note.
yes.
Yep,
Right.
Yep. Clean that
Close
up.
out credit cards
Close it
and
out.
start
Yeah.
over.
Yep.
You know, and, don't. Unfortunately, a handshake and don't take someone's word for it. Doesn't always
That
work.
doesn't work?
That's
Yeah.
why we have legal documents like that, because the handshake hits
Doesn't
someone's
work.
word.
How many jobs would not be here if we could just do it by a handshake?
Well, that's a good way to wrap up our show.
like
a
that.
handshake does not
A
work.
handshake does not work. Thank you.
Never, ever, ever.
John Marroni, the Iceman. Kathy Holtshouser, thank you for being back.
You're very welcome.
Thanks
It's
for
only been
joining
a
us.
couple hours. I'm back.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on the Real Estate House Party. We're going to have Tony V back in 2 weeks. Christine Hurley probably be joining us, but
We'll see.
I think we did pretty good. John
Did
Marroni,
awesome.
Kathy
Yeah.
Holtshouser,
Yep.
thanks again.
All right.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.